Hey everybody, welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write and talk about movies, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
And my name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are. So this week on the indeed you are. This week on the show we have 3 movies. I'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to direct all of our patrons and our non-patrons, who I hope will become patrons, over to our Patreon page, where the poll winner, the May poll winner, we talked about the May poll winner. It is David Cronenberg's Scanners, which Evan had never seen before, and Megan had never seen in its entirety.
That is correct.
And so it is a lively, wacky conversation about a wacky movie. So,
Yeah.
if you know your David
Is one of you
Cronenberg-
scanning me right now?
Yeah. Is your nose bleeding?
Get
I
a
don't know.
nosebleed?
Yeah.
Anyway, if you have the time or inclination or both, please go over to patreon.com/spoilerpiece and check that out. It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. On the show this week, we have 3 movies. We have On the Count of 3, The Lost City, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Did I get that title right? That's what it's called, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Let's start off with On the Count of 3. This is Gerard Carmichael making his directorial debut. It stars him and Christopher Abbott as his friend Kevin. I should mention Gerard Carmichael's name is not Gerard Carmichael, it's Val. Pardon me. And according to IMDb, it's a darkly comic feature about 2 best friends on the last day of their lives, which is true-ish. It's supposed to be the last day of their lives. But spoiler, it's only the last day of their lives for one of them. So
Correct.
Yes.
So you got these 2 best friends. One who has had suffered from depression and PTSD his entire life. It's not really explained entirely what his condition is, but I would go with depression and PTSD. That would be my assessment based on what you learn throughout the course of the movie.
Absolutely, I agree.
And the movie opens with both of them. Well, Kevin, Christopher Abbott, has attempted suicide 3 or 4 days before, and he's been institutionalized. And he's trying to talk his way out of the institution with the clinician who's interviewing him. And he kind of... He's giving her all these sunny kinds of things, and she's trying to dig in, and finally he just loses his mind. He's like, God damn it, you fucking people have been like, I've been seeing doctors since I was 8 years old, and none of you can figure this out. And he just like loses his mind, and then he's like, I'm sorry I yelled at you. I shouldn't have done that. I think he calls her a bitch, and he's like, I'm sorry I called you a bitch. That was unfair, or something like that.
Yes.
And then you have Val, Gerard Carmichael, who is, I'm not really sure why he wants to kill himself, because he thinks his life is going nowhere.
Yeah, it seems that way. And he's ignoring his girlfriend, who we find out later is pregnant, this child. He's been dodging her. He works this kind of shitty job at like was it grain and feed or something like that? And it's like shoveling mulch all day. And he finds out he's gotten a promotion to floor manager, which he could not give a shit about.
Yeah.
And then he decides to try and hang himself in the bathroom at work, and can't even get a moment of peace from his sunny, fucking obnoxious coworker.
Yeah.
So he decides to
He's
abandon
singing while
that
he
attempt.
pees. So, yeah, and then so Val breaks Kevin. He goes to visit Kevin, where he's been sent, whatever the institution is, and he starts smoking in his room and sets off the fire alarm. And a nurse comes in and she scolds them both and opens the window, and he's like, let's go. And they jump out the window, and then they're free. And so the plan is to go do all the things they want to do for the day that they haven't done, and also kill Kevin's childhood psychiatrist who abused him, as it turns out, and is played by Henry Winkler. In an un-Henry Winkler-like performance. And so that's the story. That's what happens. Those are the ins and outs. What did everybody think of On the Count of Three? Don't all speak at once.
I just didn't want to talk over anybody.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always try to cede the floor, but we should be better about this. Megan, what did you think?
Ooh, I had some very mixed feelings on this. So, first of all, I think the performances are really good. I think I am a huge fan of Christopher Abbott. I always love him. He's always excellent. He is a very interesting actor, and he chooses very, very interesting roles. And so I'm always excited to see what he's going to pop up in next, whether it's Black Bear or Possessor. First thing I saw him in was Girls, and he was great in that. So I think he is spectacular in this. And Gerard Carmichael, he's okay. I wasn't as enamored with his performance, but I think his rapport with Christopher Abbott's really good. I think this has moments where it's a really, really fascinating exploration of mental health, of suicidal ideation, of trauma from childhood sexual abuse. I think there are those moments, but I think overall, for me, it's so tonally jarring. And Dave, you had kind of said off mic that it was kind of all over the place, and you thought that was kind of the point. And I do agree, but it didn't quite work for me the way it wildly vacillates between really macabre humor to tragedy. Just, it didn't quite work for me. And it could be my own personal biases, knowing people who struggled with suicidal ideation, myself struggling with it. And I'm not saying like if you have struggled with it, you won't like this. You very well may. But yeah, for me, it was really, really hard. So I had a lot of mixed emotions. But the ending in particular really was gutting, and I think had a lot of emotional resonance.
Yeah. Well, Evan, why don't you tell us what you thought, and then we'll tell everybody what the ending is, which is yikes.
Boy.
It is. I think I like this more than you, Megan, but I see what you mean. I think there is a chaotic nature to the movie, which, to Dave's point, I think in some ways is intentional, but in other ways it can be very jarring how it shifts from like extremely dark humor, like you're saying, to shocking violence, often in the same scene. Like the scene where he goes to see, Gerard Carmichael's character goes to see his father, who's played by J.B. Smoove, who was abusive growing up and stole money from him, and he tries to confront his dad and get the money, and then his dad is just beating the crap out of him, and it is a very difficult scene to watch. So there's a lot of scenes of like kind of like shocking violence that it doesn't, I don't know if it all hangs together.
Yeah.
But I did find the performances compelling. They have a very weird rapport as characters. It's like in some moments you can say like, oh man, these guys totally play like best friends who've known each other forever. Like the way they can push each other's buttons and like, you know, just annoy the shit out of each other. And there are other times it's like, why are you guys even friends? What do you have in common? I had so many moments like that where I'm like, you guys are so different in so many ways. It just was weird to me that they were friends, but there were times where I was like, okay, yeah, I see it. I see why they're friends.
I think that's so fascinating because I think there are many people who are friends who are complete opposites, who are very different, and yet they've had that bond for such a long time and that shared history and love for each other. But yeah, I didn't think they had a lot in common other than they both had abusive childhoods and both were beaten down by the ennui of life.
Yeah. I think I like this more than both of you. I like movies that make me really sad.
I do too.
Sad.
Yeah, no, I do too. That's when that's when I liked it the most, is when it was at its saddest.
Yeah, and I think that I really liked their rapport. Like Evan, I can understand there were moments where I'm like, not because opposites can't be friends, but I wasn't quite sure why these two particular people were friends, other than they grew up on the same street. And but I think that Christopher Abbott is fantastic. He's so good. And I think Gerard Carmichael is better than I've seen him in other stuff. I mean, he's one of these actors who, you know, everyone kind of raves about him, and I'm like, I'm not sure I see it. But I think he was good in this, and I think it's well directed too. I think that the crazy tone shifts are sort of, you know, relevant to or consistent with what their characters are going through at that moment, you know? So,
yes.
In particular, the scene that I have been thinking of is when they're riding these dirt bikes. They used to work at this like place where you can ride dirt bikes, which makes me wonder why this movie isn't set in the 80s. But anyway,
Right.
Good question.
And Jared Carmichael falls off, and he something happens to his leg. I don't know what, it's bleeding. So they go to a convenience store to get some CBD and some stuff like that. And the clerk is not paying any attention to him because he's the new clerk and he's got to do the register. And he's like, I'll help you guys in a minute. And so they got a couple of guns in the car because that's a whole plot thread. And Christopher Abbott just runs out and gets the gun and puts it in the clerk's face and like has him get all the stuff they want and then pays him. And it's like, don't be, you know, a dick or dismissive to people who are suffering, you know? And that's the scene I think of the most when I think of this movie. It's just like, you've got this, it's kind of played for laughs at the beginning when they walk into the convenience store and, you know, and then you think, all right, well, the clerk's just going to be a dick. And then it cuts to the parking lot where their car is. And then you see Christopher Abbott walking toward it. And that was when I was like, oh, he's going to go stick a gun in this guy's face, which is exactly what he did. But I also wasn't expecting him to pay for everything. So
yeah, that was a funny twist. And that's like one in many things that they do that are very chaotic and things that are crimes they commit that you're like, okay, they're definitely not both walking away from this day, even if they both decide at the end, hey, we're not going to kill ourselves. And that I feel like is the kind of foreboding element that just kind of hangs over the course of the movie, because you know that like some point they're going to get caught and they're going to have to make a decision. Like, do I, you know, take the rap or do I kill myself because that was what I originally planned to do and I don't want to get caught and I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah, short version, for some reason, Gerard Carmichael decides he doesn't want to kill himself. He wants to be together with Tiffany Haddish, who plays his girlfriend, and raise their kid together, which is going to be hard to do considering all the crimes he's already committed. But then Christopher Abbott goes to kill the doctor who sexually abused him, played by Henry Winkler, and just as he's about to kill him, left the safety on the gun, and because he doesn't know how to use handguns, which is which they mention multiple times. You know, it's like so. Because you know that's going to come into play. And then Gerard Carmichael, for some reason, has come up. He hasn't wanted to go and participate in the killing. And then I guess he's worried about Kevin. So he goes up. And at this point, Henry Winkler has disarmed Kevin. And I don't think has any intention of shooting him. But
no, they're just struggling for the gun.
Yeah, Gerard Carmichael comes out of the elevator and sees Henry Winkler holding the gun and then just shoots him in the head. By the way, if you want to know what Henry Winkler getting shot in the head looks like in a movie, this is your movie. Yikes. And then they leave, and then Gerard Carmichael says, I'm not going to kill myself, and Kevin says, I am, and they're being chased by the cops, and they come to, it looks like some kind of gravel pit or, you know, enormous, I don't know what it is. It looks like somewhere where people are doing like work with trucks. What's that, Megan?
It's the dirt bike area.
Oh, it's the dirt bike area. Right.
Yeah.
Because they go back to the guy's house or building.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the dirt bike area.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And so Gerard Carmichael tries to talk Kevin out of killing himself, and Kevin says, you know, turn away. You're not going to want to see this. And then he puts the gun in his mouth and he kills himself. And then the last scene is Gerard Carmichael in prison holding his child with Tiffany Haddish, and the kid's like a toddler. So he's been in prison for a while. And it's just this very long, slow, dolly shot out to a wider scene. And you just see all of these, men in prison with their families visiting them because it's Father's Day, I think.
Yeah.
And it's the saddest fucking thing. But
it is sad, but it's weird. There's a weird levity to it in that like he did live and he does get to see his daughter, and at some point, hopefully, he will not be in prison and get to spend time with her. But it's a scene that lingers for a very long time. So it does leave you an opportunity to feel a lot of different things. I feel like it lingers too long, but I feel like it does give you an opportunity to think about the different angles of that scenario, both positive and negative.
I actually love that it takes such a long time for that scene to end, because it's really forcing you to sit in the discomfort of that scene and of the culmination of all of their choices. But I think it's so interesting because I think this, and that is an incredibly sad scene, of course, but I found it incredibly sad when Christopher Abbott kills himself because it's so interesting because it's kind of taking the revenge tale and turning it on its head, because so often in the revenge tale, the person kills whom they are looking for to get vengeance, and they, quote, win, even though you never really win with vengeance. In the real world, you're still dealing with the guilt and the shame or pain or whatever. But and then he kills himself. So it feels like he loses, but does he? Like, it's just, I felt so many conflicting things in that one very quick moment. And so to then have the ending back to back, it's such a gut punch to have one and then boom, the other scene. They're both brutal scenes, and they're both I think they're really well executed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah, this movie is, I liked it a lot. I don't know if I ever need to see it again. Maybe I will, because there's a lot of, I say that a lot, but, there are so few movies, it seems, certainly not mainstream movies, that deal with mental health. It's just kind of refreshing to see any portrayal of it. But like you, Megan, I did, I kind of wondered, I wasn't sure, we talk all the time how I can guess the ending of all movies. But for a while there, I wasn't sure if Kevin was going to do it. And then when he starts talking about it, and then when he says you just turn away, it's like, oh, he is going to do it.
Right. And he says you can pin the doctor's death on me. Just tell him I did it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that should cut you a break.
And then you see him kill himself. It's not like it happens off camera. It's like right there. It's in silhouette, but nonetheless, it's right there.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like we said, it goes to the long prison dolly shot out. Anyway, I liked it. Good performances, jarring shifts in tone, which I appreciate. Any final thoughts from you all?
I have a few, actually.
Okay.
One, I thought the score in this movie was really good. It really it really sucked me in. It had so much tension, and then also just like it was so heavy on the horns. It was a very horn heavy score, which I found unsettling. I was surprised how much I laughed during this movie. Like the moments that are darkly comedic for me, there were moments where I was legitimately laughing out loud. Like there's that moment early on where he's kind of like they agree that they're gonna shoot themselves in the head, and that's the whole on the count of three business. And then Christopher Abbott's character is like, you know what? I want a day. Give me a day. I got some stuff I want to do. And he's like, no, why can't we just do this now? And he's like, no, I like need a day. I need to. He's like, well, I didn't expect to send a save the date for a double suicide. There's moments in that I actually just found very funny, despite being just really dark. And then the last thing I think that I want to say is, I thought it was a good choice to have somebody like Henry Winkler play the abusive doctor, just because he doesn't play a villain very often. He's kind of plays that role very sparingly. So I think it works to have someone like him who's known for being kind of like a jovial, fun kind of guy. Like, it just, to me, added a much more sinister element to it to have him be the evil doctor in this. So I don't know. I like that choice.
Any closing thoughts from you, Megan?
Nope.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to our second movie of the night, The Lost City. This is a comedy, starring Sandra Bullock, Channing.
I guess we know how you feel about it.
Channing
Coming
Tatum
in hot.
Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, and Daniel Radcliffe. Your IMDb summary goes like this. A reclusive romance novelist on a book tour with her cover model gets swept up in a kidnapping attempt that lands them both in a cutthroat jungle adventure. That is all true. That's actually a pretty good one-sentence description of this movie.
Good job, IMDb.
Completely accurate. So we know how I felt about it, or I feel about it. And just to stir the pot a little more, no question mark. It's not a comedy. So, how do you all feel? Ooh.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, I guess I won't take it. Go ahead, Evans.
I enjoyed this movie. I did find it funny. I like Channing Tatum. I think he can be very funny. I like Sandra Bullock. I think she can be very funny. And I think they have a fun chemistry in this. Like, he's the cover model that's been on the cover of books. At the start of the movie, he seems like he's one of those typical like conceited muscle dudes who just is all about himself. And as the movie goes on, you find out that he has been into her for a very long time, has been attracted to her intellect. He's just kind of a buffoon. It doesn't have a great way of showing it. And it turns out to be pretty sweet, like a sweet guy who really is interested in her and supportive of her. So I was kind of surprised by that. But I remember Channing Tatum in the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies and him also playing a similar kind of like bumbling character who has good intentions, even if he's like a little bit dense at times. And so I felt like it was kind of a similar dynamic here.
How about you, Megan?
Yeah, I sort of agree with you, Evan. I agree. I like the chemistry between Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum as well. I always love Sandra Bullock. Even when she's in absolute dumpster fire films, I always love her. And I like their banter too. I really like that an older woman, she is 57, and a 42-year-old man has the hots for her. Get it. I fucking love it. I'm here for it. Yeah. It's great. And I love, yes, that he's so attracted to her because of her intellect. But yet, even though he's not on her level necessarily, like as far as education or intellect goes, because he's kind of goofy, he really loves history and travel and is really intrigued by those things too. So he's interested in the same things she is, even though he's not at her level as far as intellect goes. And I don't know, I liked that. And I also really liked the reversal of gender dynamics regarding the damsel in distress. And like, he keeps thinking he's going to save her, but she doesn't need him to save her. And he's not doing a very good job at it. And then at one point he's like, wait, am I the damsel in distress? And it was very cute. So yeah, I liked all that. And of course, this is pulling so heavily from Romancing the Stone, which is a vastly superior film. Vastly superior. But it also has little nods to many other romantic comedies, including Working Girl, by naming Brad Pitt's cameo character Jack Trainer, which is Harrison Ford's character's name, which I loved. But yeah, it's just pulling so heavily, but it is doing some of its own things despite being so heavily influenced by Romancing the Stone. I think for me, the problem with this film is that it's not very funny. I did laugh at a couple of parts, but most of the time I more groaned than laughed. And the pacing is awful. The pacing is not good.
Deadly.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's not good. So I liked parts of it. I like the two of them. It's fluffy. It's kind of fun. But yeah, it's got some issues. Dave?
Well, I'm not going to piss all over your parade.
You can. It's okay.
Well, you both, for all the things, the criticisms you have of it, the two of you liked it so much more than I did. This is kind of, I feel about this movie how I feel about The Three Amigos. There are people who think The Three Amigos is the greatest comedy of the 80s. They fucking love it. They'll die on a hill for it.
No,
that's true. They will. Not me either.
Okay, not you two. And I find that movie, just like this one, laugh free. Like just the opposite. It's kind of like one of my favorite things in the world is anti-humor, but when it's done on purpose, you know?
Yeah, this is not.
And this movie is just like, I don't remember which one of you mentioned the pacing, but just like the you know, it's like somebody edited this with a cleaver, you know, and Scotch tape. Like, I don't know.
I love that description.
Yeah. I think part of the problem is that they're trying to do too much with the side plots, like the agent, editor friend who's there trying to find them, and the Brad Pitt
who just keeps
stuff,
randomly showing up, you know.
The Daniel Radcliffe is the maniacal villain who's trying to find the lost treasure on the island, so he's kidnapped her and he's got his own people looking. It's just, I think there's just too busy. I think if it was a little more streamlined, it wouldn't feel so sluggish.
Or if it was better written.
That too.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's both.
I mean, I like both Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum a lot. And I'll say that I liked Sandra Bullock well enough in this, but I just found Channing Tatum's character such a fucking dud that I just couldn't get into it. And every time he opened his mouth, I just wanted someone to slap him and just stop talking, you fucking dope. You know,
so you're like Daniel Radcliffe. You love watching hunks fail.
I guess so.
I thought that was a funny line, a throwaway line that you like barely hear.
Yeah, I'll read you the two sentences I wrote about this on Letterboxd. 1.5 stars. Brad Pitt is magic. Everything else is dog shit. That's what I wrote. I hated this from start to finish. I mean, I was actually kind of surprised how much I disliked it because going into it, I was like, oh, this update on Romancing the Stone. That's exactly what I thought, you know, kind of gender roles switched, but, you know, similar idea. And it does have a lot of the same things. Mm-hmm. But the thing that Romancing the Stone gets right is, first of all, it's directed by a better director than the team here.
Yes.
And it's got Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas kind of at their best, and a great villain in Danny DeVito, and one plot line.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
One story. They're all trying to get the stone, whereas this one's got the agent coming after him, and then Brad Pitt like doing all the like secret agent stuff, and you know it was just too much, and it was too slow, and I didn't laugh once. And Evan has said sometimes, I think it's you, Evan, who's like, this movie was painful for me to get through.
Yeah. Yep.
Just, this is one of those things where I hope that these two directors who are a team, I hope their DGA cards get pulled. I mean, it's just awful.
Wow. Harsh.
Yeah.
Burn.
Yeah. And I also saw Top Gun Maverick this week too. So like I'm up to my eyeballs in, you know, questionable movie choices. So anyway, that's how I felt about The Lost City. I'm sorry to be kind of a downer about it, but I just couldn't get on board, man.
Hey, Dave, you tried. It's your genre wheelhouse, and it just didn't deliver.
I love myself a good rom-com, and I guess
this is not a good
keyword is
rom-com.
good. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I enjoyed it because I like the two of them, but it is not a good rom-com.
Yeah. Well, it's also one of those things that the problem that I had with it, more than the fact that it wasn't funny, is that it was trying so hard to be funny.
Yes.
And it's
Agreed.
it's kind of like, it's like that whole thing that happened with the Judd Apatow movies for like that decade when all the people who worked with him were hot, and they would all be commenting on the jokes they were making as they were making them. That's kind of how I felt watching this, although it's not at the same meta level of those. It's just like, stop talking about the thing you're doing right now and just do something funny, So anyway, that's where I come down.
The one thing I want to add about, I will say to this film's credit is, and I think it's entirely in Sandra Bullock's hands, is I love seeing Sandra Bullock as a sad character. Like, I love her in While You Were Sleeping, and I love when she's like, sad and kind of lonely. And I think there are certain emotions that certain actors nail. Like, I think Essie Davis nails anger. I think Jennifer Aniston also gets anger really, really right. And I think Sandra Bullock weirdly gets sadness and like loneliness really right, and grieving. And I think she really captures that exceptionally well here, since she's still grieving the loss of her husband, the love of her life, and how she just talks about how she wants to be alone, and she understands that when they finally get to the Lost City, that that Daniel Radcliffe thinks it's going to be this amazing treasure trove, and she's like, no, this is a woman who was grieving and just wanted to be alone. And I think that element is really good. So I wish they'd kind of leaned into that a bit more rather than trying to be so funny when it just didn't work.
Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts on The Lost City? The Lost film.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sad you guys didn't like it as much as I did, but I had a good time.
Oh, I still had a good time. I just don't think it's good, but I still enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong.
I just mentioned Top Gun Maverick. I mean, it's a crap movie, but I enjoyed the shit out of it. So,
I read your Instagram story, and I was like, it was like all these like 6-7 bullet points about how terrible it is, and then at the end, I loved it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that was a twist.
Yeah. You don't know. Yeah. But you can't predict how I'm going to end movies either. Anyway, I'm sorry, Evan.
Apparently.
It's true. But it just made me think, Megan, when you were talking about how certain actors are good at nailing specific emotions.
Yes.
Talking about Top Gun, Tom Cruise specifically, I think he's really good at being vulnerable. That's something I've seen in movies. Like, he plays a character who does a really good job of showing like vulnerability, or like feeling like he's kind of like out of his depth. That's something he does particularly well.
Well, then you're going to like Top Gun Maverick.
I agree with you. And actually piggybacking off of that and expanding on that, I think what he does even like as well, if not better, is when he's really, really, really arrogant, but underneath he's like really vulnerable, and his arrogance is just trying to compensate for his vulnerability. So I completely agree with you.
Wow.
Damn,
okay.
now I want to see Top Gun Maverick, and I did not want to see that.
So that was The Lost City and Top Gun Maverick.
Let's cruise out of the danger zone with this conversation.
Yeah. This conversation has taken my breath away, I got to tell you. Okay, last movie of the night, and from what I heard off mic, it's going to be a hot one. So we all finally got around to seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which here's your I mean, this is actually a long summary on IMDb, but yeah. Never a good sign when your Marvel movie IMDb summary is long, but here we go. Doctor Strange teams up with a mysterious teenage girl from his dreams who can travel across multiverses to battle multiple threats, including other universe versions of himself, which threaten to wipe out millions across the That is a fucking clumsy sentence. Across the multiverse. They seek help from Wanda the Scarlet Witch, Wong, and others. I mean...
Yeah.
Not wrong.
I mean...
I love that Wong's character is just Wong. Just like when BD Wong plays BD Wong, Dr. Wong on Law and Order. I love that. Benedict Wong here. This is just character's name is Wong.
Yeah. So, this movie. Well, first thing I want to say before we get into it is, I was kind of surprised that Sam Raimi, A, was chosen for this and B, accepted it. But then watching this movie, this is a Sam Raimi movie, in and out. That's the one thing I'm going to say before I let you two, who I think have more to say about it than I do. I mean, I just thought it was kind of like, yeah, fine. That's kind of how I felt about it. That kind of low growl rumble I just did. But which one of you would like to go first? I have a feeling that I know that Megan has a lot to say because she told us.
I was going to say I want to hear what Megan has to say about this. I'm curious.
I was going to say you might want to buckle up. I have a lot of things to say and a lot of notes. So
sure. I'm strapped
Try to
in.
go fast without speaking too fast.
Fastened.
Okay. First of all, I want to start with the positive. I really like the horror elements. It's really nice to see Sam Raimi's touches. Like I love the eyeball that is like being yanked out of the octopus monster. And I like the scene with all of the mirror shards that are ready to stab Wanda. That's a great visual. And I think there are a lot of great visuals like that. And I like that there's a reanimated corpse that's possessed and it's one of the iterations of Doctor Strange. Like those are some really great touches. And I really like that. And I always lament that superhero films are not a genre in and of themselves. So I love when they actually embrace a genre like embracing horror. I wish it had gone a little deeper into horror, but I'm still glad that it was there.
Yeah.
My problem is I have two big problems. One, and I think it all comes down to the writing. The writing, I think, is abysmal. And I think this film lacks an emotional connection with its characters and with each other. America Chavez, I was so excited to see her because she's a Latina superhero. She's, beloved in the comics. I was really excited. And I do not think this is the fault of Xochitl Gomez, who plays her, but she has zero personality. Zero. We know nothing about her other than she can travel the multiverse, and through multiple places at will, or not at will because she can't control it because it's her emotions that make it happen. And we know she has queer moms. Love seeing queer moms. That is great. But that a personality does not make. And we know nothing about her. And it's just, that was really unfortunate. But we're coming to my biggest problem. The big problem.
I think I know where this is going.
The big problem is Wanda. And I am so sad about that because I love Elizabeth Olsen. I think she is such an incredible actor. I love WandaVision. Love it.
Me too.
I think Jack Schaefer's WandaVision is so sharp, so well done. It really is such a great exploration of trauma and grief and loss and just a connection, family, you name it. It's so good. And it's so fascinating to see Wanda's narrative arc in that. I also loved Loki, which the screenwriter Michael Waldron created, and he wrote this. But I think Wanda's storyline is so ridiculously sexist. And thank you, Evan. And at Vulture, Angelica Jade Bastian said the same thing. Interestingly, one of the reasons she thought this was such a sexist storyline is because of the focus being so heavily on Wanda can't function unless she's a mother. And I understand that. And there are lots of films that do that. And it's really infuriating. That's actually not, interestingly, that's not my problem with the film. Like, I don't have that problem just because of WandaVision preceding it and all of the grief and, dealing with her children and losing them and losing her partner. It's all so tragic and sad. My problem is that this is such an ableist depiction of grief and of unraveling and the fact that she can't control her powers. It's her emotions that overcome her. And, there's a line where she says to Doctor Strange, you bend the rules and you become the hero. I do it and I become the villain. That's a great line. I mean, it's not like the most unique or original, but it's a great
Right.
line, a great sentiment. And I was hoping because of that, that would be a catalyst for the film to actually explore that, which it never, ever, ever does.
Nope.
And it's so frustrating that she is just not well written. She's not well developed here. And it's so annoying that Sam Raimi admittedly did not watch WandaVision, or he only watched key scenes. And in an interview, Elizabeth Olsen said that he listened to her when she gave feedback, when she's like, actually, I don't think Wanda would do this. I think she would do this because of what happened to her in WandaVision. And he listened, and that's great. Despite that, I think she is so poorly written here. And I think Elizabeth Olsen is really doing her best, but it's just not good. And so when you couple Wanda's sexist storyline with America Chavez not having a personality at all, to me, the takeaway seems to be that men can control their powers, but women cannot control theirs, and they merely succumb to their wild emotions.
Yeah.
I agree with you that that's how it plays out. That's how it feels. But I don't think that this movie is smart enough to be sexist on purpose. I just think it's so sloppy that it ends up that way. I mean, this screenplay is just out of control. You know, like,
Yeah.
I agree with you about the kid. There's this movie with Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez that I can't remember the name of. And they're like driving a car the whole time, and she's being chased and all this kind of stuff. And her character doesn't have a name. She's just called the kid. You know, there's one point when Ethan Hawke's like, oh God, they're going to kill that kid. I got to go back for her. And it's like, what? I mean, name her Selena. I don't give a fuck. Give her a name, you know?
Right?
And that's kind of, I just feel like this movie is like so concerned with setting up the idea of the multiverse, and also Sam Raimi having fun with the visual aspects of that.
Yeah.
And trying to make Doctor Strange, I think Doctor Strange's problem, at least as he's portrayed in the movies, is he's just a dick, you know? And,
Yeah.
you know,
And in my opinion, not an interesting character either.
Tony Stark is a dick, but Tony Stark has the, you know, benefit of being played by Robert Downey Jr. And I think,
Who oozes charisma.
yeah, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a fine actor, but he needs good writing. You know, he gets a little bit lost when he's left holding the bag. Let's put it that way. And so I agree with all of your points, Megan. I just think this movie is just so bad. It's everything that's bad about it is accidental, because it's just like it's like watching a movie where you've got it. I feel like all the production heads had different ideas about what they were doing, you know? So, and then you got to make it all fit into the Marvel universe as a whole. And I haven't watched WandaVision. And so there's whole chunks of this movie where like, I didn't even know what was going on, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm expected to watch like 8 episodes of whatever on Disney Plus before I see. Now I've got to worry about TV series too.
Yep.
Just too much, man.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got to shoehorn all that stuff into the narrative. Just fucking no, thank you.
Well, I mean, as Megan said, they fail to really connect WandaVision to this movie.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating, because WandaVision, I think, is a great show, and it gives so much depth to her character. And it's like they took her from being a 3-dimensional character and then smushed her down to being 1-dimensional again in this. And that's what's so frustrating, to feel like the character herself has stepped backward. And
Agreed.
I have a question.
Sure.
What happened to her accent?
So they talk about that in WandaVision.
Okay.
They address that she drops it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's a great point. You shouldn't have to have watched WandaVision to know shit like that.
Yeah.
But like we were just saying, like they shouldn't then take the character backward either. So, if the character's making forward progress, don't then like revert them back to this weird, shitty 1-dimensional thing where it's like, you know, what you were saying, Megan, it's, so she can't control her powers and her emotions, but then Doctor Strange at the end has to use the dark hold, this dark book of sorcery, and he's fine. basically.
Totally fine.
Like he gets some fucking gray hair or white hair or something, and like gets
An
a third
extra
eye in
eye.
his
He gets
the
forehead
third
or
eyeball,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, but still, but his personality is fine. He's not corrupted the way she supposedly is.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too that pissed me off is that she, at the end of WandaVision, she feels terrible what she's done. That she's mind controlled a whole town. That she's hurt so many people. She's so remorseful. She feels so guilty and awful. And then we're gonna, like you said, Evan, we're gonna go backwards. And now all of a sudden she has no fucking moral compass, and she's just horrible. And she's gonna kill people, whomever gets in her way, so she can kidnap America Chavez, so she can steal her powers and travel the multiverse. Like,
Yeah,
what? Like, it's just such bullshit.
it is.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating that
Yes.
there's so much of this movie that I found really obnoxious, despite the fact that, you know, what Dave was saying earlier, this is a Sam Raimi movie. And I love Sam Raimi as a director, and I love seeing his touches and his influence and making a Marvel movie have more personality by using those dark, you know, horror elements and slapstick. And, you know, of course, I was waiting for Bruce Campbell to show up. And of course, he
course
gets
he
a
does.
spell on himself where he's slapping himself in the face. And then you
Just
get
like
the
an Evil Dead
post-credit.
2.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Army of Darkness. So I love that. I love that those pieces are there, but the writing is just in between. It's just so weak and so frustrating, both from a character perspective and also in the ways that you're saying before, Megan, that it's just like, we don't know anything about this like central character. It's like we have like a 2.5 hour movie or however long this movie is to tell her story. Like we should be seeing more parts of her story and maybe spending a little less time bogged down in whatever other universe where we get to see, you know, the alternate Marvel what if heroes
Yeah.
get murdered by Wanda.
Right? But I did love seeing Peggy Carter. That was great. I always
Yep.
love seeing her. And Professor X. But one of my favorite parts was when Doctor Strange and America are barreling through the like 20 or 25 different multiverses, and
Yeah.
like they're like a cartoon in one, they're paint in one. Like
Yep.
you're seeing, you know, some dystopian shit, you're seeing some utopian places. Like that I really liked. I
Me
thought
too.
that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so frustrating is that there are some really great touches here and really great moments, but it just doesn't come together. Sorry, Dave, you were about to say.
No, I was going to say, I know the point precisely. When I was not on board with it most of the time. I mean, like I told you guys off mic, I did fall asleep during the screening. And I was
That's
woken
true, you
up
did.
by a loud special effect fairly early in the movie. So I probably missed like 5 minutes. And I don't really think it probably matters anyway. But where this movie lost me entirely was when Wanda gets to whatever that temple thing is, and there are those 4 demon things there, and you think they're going to kill everybody, and they like bow down to her, and she says, this isn't, I don't know what she says it isn't, but she says, it's a throne. It's not a throne.
it's not
it's an altar.
Yeah.
Like, just like, you can't even
Yep.
get that right. I mean, Jesus, fuck.
That's
funny
so
you
funny,
mention
Dave.
that
I
scene.
said the same thing. Yeah, when she says it's not a tomb, it's a throne. And I'm like,
It's
no,
a tomb.
it's a temple. It's an
Yeah.
altar. What are you doing?
Yeah. This is like there was a disconnect between the production designer and the screenwriter and Sam
Yes.
Raimi in that whole moment.
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that scene because in my screening, the audio cut out in the minute or two leading up to that. So they were just wandering into the mountain and I had no idea what was going on because there was no sound. And then AMC came back in and fixed it, but then didn't bother to rewind it because fuck you. Why should we rewind a scene when you missed it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well.
Yikes.
I mean, we all had a lot to say about ye old Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
It's a real mixed bag, and unfortunately, and most of it is not good. That's in the bag.
Here's my question. Charlize Theron pops up in the post-credit sequence. Has she been in any other Marvel movies?
No.
No.
Okay, so she's a new she's playing some character we haven't seen in the movies before.
Correct.
Yes.
What I want to know is, and I think I know why they do it, but why are we now casting super fucking famous, great Academy Award winning actors in movies like this? Like, Do you just because she wants to play a superhero? I mean, I don't know. I understand why if you're Robert Downey Jr. and your career has been in the skids for a decade, why if they're like, we want you to be Tony Stark, you're like, sign the deal. But what possesses Benedict Cumberbatch to be Doctor Strange? For that matter, what possesses him to want to be Khan in the fucking Star Trek reboot? I mean,
oh God,
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I knew that would get something from you.
Because that movie is garbage.
Yeah.
It's an abomination to Star Trek. Anyway,
absolutely.
I mean, is it beyond the paycheck? I don't know. Maybe it's like, hey, I haven't done a superhero film yet. Why not?
Yeah, maybe I want to act with a green screen and look at a tennis ball. I mean, maybe that's what it is.
Maybe
it's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, and I think it's a great question. I think actors obviously choose roles for so many different reasons, but yeah, it is interesting to see. Like every time I watch one of these, I'm like, oh, who's the next huge actor who's going to make a cameo? Who's the next huge actor who's going to step in? And
yeah. To me, what's interesting is when you see actors who were in a superhero movie before that was like a horrible movie, and then they come back to it again and they're like in some like mega hit. Like Oscar Isaac, was in X-Men Apocalypse, which was a just bomb, and now he's in Moon Knight. And it's just funny to me, like Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern, and it's just like Ben Affleck. We got Daredevil, and then he's Batman. It's just so funny to me to like see when they took a chance, it failed, and they're like, you know what? Sure, I'll try it again.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it, this is purely conjecture, but I think part of it probably goes like, if you're I'm going to speak for Robert Downey Jr. If you're him and you're having trouble, your career's in trouble. Let's just put it that way. And then someone says, we're going to do Iron Man. And then you think to yourself, you've been in business for 25 years and you know how things work. And you're like, if this works, I will never have to worry about, buying groceries again, ever. I wonder if that's part of it too. I mean,
it might be. It's funny that you say that, Dave, just because this is a wilder tangent, so I'll just keep it brief. But Kelly Reichardt, who is one of my absolute favorite directors, doesn't have health insurance because she's struggling to make films, and she's one of the best filmmakers of our time. And so I wonder if it is something, because you never know how long your career is going to go for. So I wonder if it is kind of, some monetary insurance, like, hey, I'm going to do this superhero film, make some bank, easy job, maybe, and have some insurance. Like, who knows? I don't mean insurance like health insurance. I mean like insurance like
I know what you mean, though. I mean, we've seen, it's not superhero movies, but we've certainly seen actors like Daniel Radcliffe and Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson who, banked some money on these like big movies that now they can just kind of kick back and just do whatever the fuck they want, no matter how weird it is. And I respect the shit out of that.
Love it.
Yeah, I love that Daniel Radcliffe's choices before The Lost City have just been fucking weird. He's just like, I was Harry Potter for 8 movies. Fuck it. I'm going to be is he the corpse in the...
Yes.
He's the corpse. Yeah.
Swiss Army Man.
Yeah. I'm going to be the corpse in a fucking movie, and I'm going to fart. That's, I appreciate that too. Anyway, so we've gone off on the wildest tangent of wild tangents, which I guess shows you exactly how we feel about fucking Doctor Strange and the multiverse of bullshit. So, anybody have any closing thoughts on Doctor Strange?
I do.
Oh, good.
I think and I know I've said this, that it's so frustrating because there were really good embers of ideas here. But I really love a multiverse. I love Into the Spider-Verse, as I've said on other shows. I didn't love Spider-Man No Way Home, but I loved how they pulled in the other Peter Parkers. And they did it so well and so with such emotional resonance. And it really is just so frustrating that they had so many ideas, so many things laid out for them in the other shows, films, you name it. And yeah. But I still think Elizabeth Olsen's great, and I love the way she acts with her hands when she's casting spells.
Yeah. I think Elizabeth Olsen's great too. I even think she's as good as she can be in this. you know?
Oh, yeah. I agree. I think she's quite good in this, too. Because I think she really enjoys this character and really taps into it, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
But it just...
I also think it was interesting how she made the choice when she was Wanda, not the witch, when she was a mother in the other universe, to make the choice that she knew she was Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, in another universe. I just thought that was an interesting choice. I don't know if that's what was intended, but that's how it felt to me. Like, you know, when she's at the end, when she's guarding the kids and she's like, hey, I know that, like, I'm a Scarlet Witch over there. Fucking take off. So, anyway, Evan, do you have final thoughts? Oh, sorry, Megan. You were going to say something else.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say everyone should go watch WandaVision instead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's really well done. It's very funny. It's very moving. Paul Bettany is great in it, and I love him as Vision. He, again, another character that gets so much depth in a TV show that they didn't get a chance to give in the films.
Yeah.
And Randall Park is fun too. Get him. He's in there a little bit.
And you're not going to mention Agatha? It was Agatha all along?
Catherine Hahn, yeah.
God, I love that woman.
Yeah, so many great people. That's definitely worth checking out.
Okay. So that's your plug for WandaVision.
Yes. But my final thought on Doctor Strange is, as a Sam Raimi fan, I have to say I'm very disappointed in myself for not noticing the appearance of his Delta 88 in the movie. I totally missed it when I was watching. Like, damn it, I knew it was there somewhere and I missed it.
It was spinning in the in one of the dystopian multiverses they were in. It was only on screen for like a second and a half. It was a blink and you miss it kind of thing. All right. Well, so that's all the fucking movies this week. Let's do a recap. On the Count of Three is in theaters and on demand. I'm a yay.
Me too.
I am too. Even though it doesn't always work, I think the performances are good enough or excellent. Anyway, it's good enough to see. Anyway, yes.
The Lost City is on Paramount Plus. It may still be in theaters. I am a hard no. How about you two?
I'm a yay.
I'm mixed. I think there are better movies to watch instead. Watch Romancing the Stone instead.
Yeah, there
or
you go.
Another Sandra Bullock movie.
And then Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm a kind of mild no, with your mileage may vary.
I'm kind of like Marvel completionists only. I mean, no, that's not true. I did enjoy. I mean, I'll amend that, and I will say a Marvel completionist / if you like Sam Raimi movies, then you should probably also see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of mixed because I think it's interesting to see horror elements in a superhero film, but I think there are just so many better Sam Raimi films, and WandaVision is so much better, and hell, Loki's so much better. So anyway.
Loki's really good.
Yeah, so I would just say watch those instead.
Okay. Well, and Doctor Strange is in theaters right now. Okay, so that is this week's really big shoe. We want to thank our editor, Otto Clamor. Thank you, Otto, for doing the heavy lifting each week and making my voice sound not like crap. You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you get podcasts. You can find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. If you want to follow us on social media, we're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you'd like to get in touch with us, email us. Give us your take on why Sam Raimi was the perfect choice for this and how Doctor Strange 2, I'm not even going to say the whole thing, is great. You can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a voicemail. Let us know what you thought of all these movies and what we got right or wrong in your estimation. If you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, or you can rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That helps us out a lot. And if you really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon, as I mentioned at the top of the episode. It was a patrons poll this week, and the winner is David Cronenberg's Scanners. We'll do it the Scanner way. You'll know what that means if you listen to the bonus episode. So anyway, my name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies, etc., etc. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld or on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.